About a year and a half ago, I had multiple people coming up to me and being like, have you talked to this guy, Matt Speer? You got to meet this guy, Matt Speer. You got to talk to these guys at propertymanagement.com. They're doing the Carfax of property management. And to be honest, I wasn't really enthused by it until I actually met Matt. And the way that he put it was a very familiar tale. He told me, property management, every property manager or a property manager that they know has had the moment where years of an impeccable service reputation get challenged by somebody on a rampage, writing a bad Google review and getting other people to write bad Google reviews about them. And it's an absolute injustice that it's turned into this like online popularity contest. And that really rang true to me because when I first engaged with Vendoroo in July of 2024, the first thing that David Norman told me was, there's an injustice happening in property management. It's these Google reviews that challenge people, and it always comes from maintenance, and they really wanted to solve that thing. So lo and behold, I built this relationship with Matt, and what I realized is that the reason why people wanted me to meet him became very, very obvious. Not only are they solving an innovative problem in an innovative way, but he's a guy that is a big thinker, right? Like shares his ideas openly, really believes in it, and has gone all in on this thesis that he has created after having multiple other ideas. And that is something that speaks to my heart. And it is a classic property management frame breaker conversation. You're going to love this conversation with Matt Speer. Welcome to the Property Management Frame Breakers podcast. I'm your host, Pablo Gonzalez, and I am here to introduce you to the folks in the property management space that have broken the frame of what you may believe was possible. This podcast is presented by Vendoroo. It is your all-in-one AI solution for resolving your maintenance needs. Let's go. I had like 4 or 5 people be like, have you met this Matt Speer guy multiple times before you and I finally spoke when you were just getting started with propertymanagement.com? And I would say that the moment I met you, I got it, right? And it was really at Rent Vines Be Heard when you were just like this like nuclear reactor of just like, here's a great idea for you, here's a great idea for you, here's a great idea for you.
That might have been the margaritas speaking a little bit at that point in time, but I think it was like when I met my wife's parents, I was at that like 2.5 IPAs.
Yeah. So
like the words are flowing. I'm making clear thoughts. It sounds good. I'm confident.
Yeah.
That was probably a little bit of that, Pablo, but
yeah.
I'm glad you got it. I'm glad you got it.
I'm into it, right? Like you were self-aware too. You're like, hey, listen, I can stop, right? Like I'm not like selling. I'm just kind of like having this conversation. I'm like, dude, somebody with the belief in their ideology so deep that you can't help but want to share it with the world is a entrepreneurial energy that I very, very much relate to. Right.
And I appreciate that. Well, one thing I feel like people don't know about me is like before propertymanagement.com, I kind of did like everything all at once. Like I had like 10 things going on. Like I'd worked for myself for really the last like decade. Like I had a tech job out of school for like a year and a half, but then went full-time into real estate investing, like, I don't know, 12, 18 months in. So, but like since that point, it was like, I've got a property management business. I've got some rental properties. I'm just some short-term, got like a little side preventative maintenance company as well. Like I just had a lot going on. Like I literally started a Road to Hana tour company at one point. It was successful until COVID happened. Like who does that? Like we did Road to Hana tours in Hawaii remotely. Why did I do that? I don't know. But when I started propertymanagement.com, like I legitimately cut everything off. Like it affected like the cash. Like I literally just went like all the chips on the table, all in. This is the one thing. This is the once in a lifetime opportunity. So I think that's where a little bit of that passion comes from pure just fucking desperation. If I'm allowed to cuss, I don't know if I'm allowed to cuss.
Yeah, you can do whatever you want, brother. Sure. I mean, desperation, yeah. But what you're telling me, what I'm hearing in your story, Matt, and I'm assuming that you are somewhere within 10 years of me, and you rode what I hear behind what you just said in that story is that you rode the shit out of that like 2009 to 2020 entrepreneurial wave where whether it's via e-commerce or ClickFunnels or social media, all these different business models opened up, and you got the pattern recognition of the arbitrage that other businesses are not connecting the dots when transformative technology after transformative technology after transformative technology and platforms all came to the table. And now you are writing what you just described a second ago as the greatest technological innovation of all time. And you're paddling into the biggest wave possible and like fully committing based on one thesis.
Yes, I think that's all true. I think a lot of what I was doing, 2015 and on, think about like automation, like AI. People were talking a little bit about AI, but it wasn't this like tangible, real thing. It was all about like automation and how can you scale and how, build teams. Like the book, like Who Not How, like
Yeah.
all that sort of energy, I think was at play. And then, I mean, what we're seeing right now with like Claude, I think ChatGPT is sort of catching up again. I've kind of went like ChatGPT to Gemini to Claude, and now ChatGPT sort of catching back up. But like, it is the most transformative technology that's ever been created in the history of mankind. And for property management, it's perfectly ripe for property management because property management has these repeatable tasks, these like 30 or 40 workflows that are done pretty much the same every time. They're all relational. Like if this happens, then this happens. So like there's so much human bottleneck that can happen there that this technology just completely disrupts, flips on its head. And so just being able to be a part of that, like potentially like looking back maybe 10, 15 years from now and being like, all right, what can I do for this industry to help it like move towards that? Like that's what gets me really excited.
So let's talk about the founding insight to me that made it really, really interesting when you brought it up to me. And I'll bring it up in the lens of Liquid Death. You and I were just talking about Liquid Death. I have the Liquid Death thing behind me. I'm obsessed with Liquid Death. Most people say it's a great brand story. For me, what I've realized about Liquid Death is that it's more foundational than that. Liquid Death is essentially not a water company. They're not a canned water company. They're not just like a funny ad factory turned CPG product. They are solving a completely different problem. They saw that in places like concerts and monster truck rallies and bars, if you drink water, you feel ostracized because you're drinking this like plastic bottle and it looks different. And they're like, if we can brand a healthy drink in an unhealthy environment, now you're solving a problem for people that people didn't even know to surface. And I bring it all the way back to you when you first started pitching me propertymanagement.com. You were solving for the problem of the popularity contest. And the popularity contest that has happened now in many different facets that I think affects property management on multiple levels. One is the unfairness of the Google review, right? Like the idea that you have this giant billboard that you can't really control, that anybody can say anything about you, and it gets an inordinate amount of attention. And now you're forced into like all these behaviors around like, I'm really trying to incentivize Google reviews, or it incentivizes all this like gamification that isn't helping you help your client as a property manager.
Well, it creates this like human just natural reaction where you want to cut corners. You want to figure out like what's the easy way, right? And so let's take one step back. I mean, to just something we've seen with enough data to know that it's at this point fact, which is Google review rating has no correlation to overall satisfaction to NPS of your clients as a property manager. Zero. It's actually slightly negative, like barely, but it's effectively zero. So there's zero correlation. So what does that mean? That means if you have a 4.8 or a 3.8 or a 4.4 or 200 reviews or 10,000 reviews, that has nothing to do with the experience your current clients are having with your service. Fight me on it. Like anybody come at me on that. That is just the facts with how much survey data that we've seen come through in the last year. So if that's true, what when you spend time on that, what are you optimizing for? Well, you're optimizing for sales and growth. Like you're doing it because you want people to come in and become clients. And so it's a corner cutting sort of mechanism, right? It's like easier to go do that than it is to like, hey, let's work on our actual business. Let's work on like creating magical client and tenant experiences that are going to create this like great business with happy people that are going to like, that's how real business is made. And like the Liquid Death, I think the other cool thing with that story is like that founder was told it was impossible to put water in a can. Like I hear that, I'm like, that's crazy. That's like, you hear that and you're like, if you're passionate about this idea and you hear that, like 9 out of 10 people are just like, okay, I guess it's impossible. No factory does that. okay, I'm done, I quit. But it's, I think the founder that can power through that and go, no, I'm going to figure this out. Like if it wasn't possible, we're going to make it possible. I don't know. I just, that story, I think appeals to you. It appeals to me. Like it's an inspiring position. So
Yeah. Yeah. Tell me I won't, right?
tell me I won't. Yeah. It's
Yeah. Tell me I won't.
a lot of people that just like hits a button, it fires you up. You're like, all right, I'm gonna go prove that this is something that should exist in the world. I just think it's a cool thing.
For sure. We definitely vibe on that energy. So it's funny because when I first took on Vendoroo as a client, right? Like well before I wanted to be in on Vendoroo, right? When I was just like, Reza, I don't know who you are, dude. You're either gonna pay me my like fee or whatever. Like, right. I'm not leaving my business. I would launch clients with this kind of POV workshop, right? Like what's our category? What's our narrative? What's the POV? Like what are we telling? And I run through all these different exercises. And this was before I really understood the property management side, right? I also came from the investing side as well and the work I was doing with JWB, but I wasn't as intimately informed on like the nuances of property management. And the first thing that David Norman said was this moment when we're in a maintenance moment, right? Like when somebody is having a maintenance issue is the moment that is most likely to trigger a Google review. Right. And like when we first went to like the first POV that we wrote was really heavily centered around this idea of the world is unfair to you and the Google review is like the poster child for unfairness to you because they don't understand all this operational burden and all these other things that you have to do. Right. So it's like so this idea of like the unfairness of the Google review is something that ties us both together from a foundational standpoint of this. And then as I got more and more into the industry, right, and as you know, I'm very much a student of context changes and how a new normal starts to happen. And the biggest kind of like Achilles heel of these big context changes is the innovator's dilemma, where the the incumbent has so much to lose that they can't bring on this new technology and these new folks, this new challengers show up and then beat the pants out of them before they realize that before it happens, right? The Blockbuster versus Netflix story. And within it is this idea that if you are those in these big context changes, those that are trying to like bring forth the past are the ones that get wiped out, while the people reverse engineering the future are the ones that become the new incumbents, right? The ones that win.
Yeah, I can agree more. I like to think about it like this. Like if you're starting up, like, everything we know about technology and AI and property management and all these things, like we have all that context and we have to start a property management business today. And we have to grow that business to be 2,000 doors in 3 years. Crazy goal, right? A big goal, very difficult to do, but that's what we have to do. And if we don't, I don't know, gun to your head, you just have to do it. How would you do it? Right.
Yeah.
That's interesting. You ask that question. It's like, you could ask 100 just really experienced property managers that question. You're going to get so many different answers. Right. And so I think that number one, you need to solve for operations.
Yeah.
Right. You have to be able to lease properties, maintain properties, like do all of the administrative workflows. And you have to have people. Typically, you had to have people to do that. And I think now AI is making it possible to where you don't need as many people. And you can, I think the other thing is like what AI is doing in terms of like disruption is property management has been perceived as an industry where it's like fragmented, but it's very consistent. Like a property manager in Jacksonville, Florida is going to pretty much run the same workflows as somebody in San Jose, California, right? It's like the same business. And I think what, you saw private equity come in and be like, all right, we're going to roll all these companies up because they saw scale. They thought the more doors you have this recurring revenue. It's kind of like software and like they're going to add technology and all of a sudden they're going to take over the world, make loads and loads of money. 5-7 years ago, they sort of ran into a problem, the human bottleneck. Like they actually couldn't scale because like a software, you scale, your margins get greater the more customers you have. And your customer experience actually gets better as well because you have more cash, more resources. We're actually at the point in time now, for the first time ever, that property management scales. The more doors you have, you should provide a better experience. The more doors you have, your margin should go up. It's the first time that that's happened. And I think it's a fundamental shift to how you have to think about executing the business. And it goes back to that question. If you had to start today, you had to build a 2,000 door company in 3 years, like what's the tech stack? What is your strategy? How do you do that? Mm-hmm. That's different than most property managers are currently doing it right now.
100%. I'll go back to kind of like where I get my roots here in this business, which is JWB, who's the biggest incumbent in town here, 6,000 doors. As soon as I started going to these property management conferences and listening to podcasts, I was like, guys, you guys having like a system built on Salesforce right now is probably going to be like it's going to be like the number one thing that's going to hold you guys back, right? Like this idea of you have to go back right now, and this is 2 years ago, right? Like me telling my biggest client at the time when I was just starting to engage with Vendoroo that they need to go in a bunker and ask themselves if they were to start over today, how would they start over? And reverse engineer that thing was a very real conversation. And as I continue to like test it, right? Like I became a reporter of this, right? Like I didn't come with the experience that you have. I didn't have the network that you have. I became a reporter in it. And then I encountered that there's another level of like popularity, kind of like contest happening in property management, which is I love this industry, right? Like the relationships on the trade show floor that happen of like showing up to events between vendors and property managers and the communal experience of like it's this is the little industry that everybody likes to crap on from both sides and everybody's in this together is freaking phenomenal. And within that there's a generation of vendors and people that have worked on a personal brand for the last like 10 years that have developed a certain level of influence that in a very tight watering hole have an inordinate amount of sway with the industry. And what I realized early on was that no matter how good the technology or how good or how far ahead you were on whatever and the things that were really really happening out there, if you didn't if you didn't have that pre-existing relationship, the ability to be believed in any way was almost impossible, right? Like it was like a super uphill battle, and it took us about a year and a half of really being able to like show these receipts and make it like undisputable before it could start to like that word of mouth thing and whatever started working in our favor, no matter what we did, right? So like it's like
Well,
two layered, right? Like
well,
they,
and I think some of yeah, you're completely spot on with that dynamic, and like the some of the things that are at play there that are important to the everyday property manager.
yeah.
Number one, we're going through the greatest technology shift in the history of mankind. Okay, so if that's what's happening, then we have to be able to make decisions based on the information we have in front of us to like how that affects our business. What technology should we consider? How do we implement AI into our business? What's that even mean? What are the steps to take? And so if you're making those decisions based on what a few people are saying, where their incentives typically are aligned to sponsorships and payments and things like that's not just our industry, it's a lot of industries. You've got to kind of understand, all right, what is it what is it actually that we're trying to optimize for? And usually it's selfish, it's your business, right? And so
Yeah. And,
yeah.
I'll be even kinder. There is some like payments and whatnot. It's just really pre-existing relationships, man. Like if you and me have been boys for 6 years and another propertymanagement.com comes around, I'm gonna be like, I don't really know these
Well,
guys, right?
well, I think the problem that actually it creates is confusion. So like I think I told you this. I did the part of my newsletter. So I've got a newsletter too, right? You could almost throw me into this bucket. Like we could say something in our newsletter and it could shift and influence things. Like I understand that is, it's something that we've created. It's been an intentional thing that we've done, but it like there's authority to that. And like with that authority, what is the Spider-Man quote? Like you've got to be able to leverage it in a good way. We take the position, I think, uniquely that's all based on the data. It's all based on performance information, all data. It's all factual. And then we tell the story based off the facts. I think where the confusion comes right now is like, if something's said one day about one technology or vendor or software provider, and then the next week the competitor is sort of like the new option. It's like I talked to 40 property managers, give or take, over the last like month about they wanted like AI advisory. I kind of like accidentally did it where I was like, hey, anybody wants to talk to me for 30 minutes, an hour, book a time on my calendar. I'll talk to you about like AI and how you should be thinking about it. I'll talk about whatever you want, right? Well, I got surprised and like 43 people booked the call in a 2-week period of time, and it ended up taking me about 3 weeks to have all the conversations. But the general consensus is that everyone wants to implement AI. No one knows how. So every conversation is like, okay, what's your tech stack? And then you talk about the tech stack and you're like, okay, well, does that tech stack allow you to do 70, 80, 90% of your operations like all automatically with AI? No. Okay. Well, what options should we look at? Like, that's the way I think people should be thinking about their businesses. How do I optimize it to where in a year, in 2 years, 80, 90% of the everyday repeatable tasks are done with AI? And then whatever everybody else is saying is just noise. It's just noise. Like if somebody's sort of telling you that the incumbent, like old school clickable software technology is like what you should be investing in, that's probably a bad idea at this point. And that's not a knock on any incumbent technology that's been around. There's a lot of really great players, but I know for a fact a lot of them are trying to shift towards this, this AI model as well. And that's the innovator's dilemma you talked about earlier.
Yeah, I'm glad you said that before I said that, because I say innovator's dilemma at least 4 times a podcast. And you're making the point. We've been belaboring this whole thing. To me, it's validating the need for someone who is looking at this thing from that isn't also selling you the service that they're pitching, right? Like, it's very hard for me to be taken as an unbiased opinion on AI, no matter how much I prefer to be everybody's friend over anything, right? Like, so somebody that comes from the industry, that's built a property management company, that's been a real estate investor, that's taking on the onus of being dogmatic around having data-driven insights to decode what's happening from a performance standpoint and not from a relationship standpoint, not from a incentive standpoint, not from these definitely kinds of things, to me is like the liquid death thinking, oh, somebody needs to find a way to make you not feel douchey drinking water at a bar. Right? Like it's like an obvious thing that should have happened a long time ago, right? Like it hadn't been there, and you are flexing the technology of the era in order to do this in a specific way by
Well,
bringing this data together to show these insights.
well, I mean, it's our whole business model, and kind of to tie it together, like how it played out, right? So the first was Carfax of property management. That was the original idea. Let's surface objective performance data on what I felt was a pretty good domain. It like felt right. Propertymanagement.com seems like it would be the Carfax of property management, where a property owner would go to find the best property manager, right? Honestly, we don't, as property managers, really talk to our owner clients very much. We never ask them like, hey, what was your experience in finding a property manager? Was that difficult? Like, how could you have improved that process? Like, we did that. And what they told us was like, yeah, it's a terrible experience. It's really hard to understand who's good, who's bad. You kind of just have to take a gamble and see how it plays out. Well, that usually costs people, thousands, tens of thousands of dollars if they get it wrong. And so our general thesis was like, okay, well, what is a good property manager? Well, somebody who is responsive, they manage maintenance efficiently, get pretty good costs, they can lease your property quickly, they communicate well. That's pretty generally, like, I think 80% of it probably. And so then we're like, okay, well, what data, what information would we need to verify to like be able to confidently kind of pull that? Well, we decided the best way to understand that would actually just survey their existing clients. What do their current clients say, rated by those different important categories? And if their current clients are happy, and that wasn't gamed. So like we get a lot of pushback on our model because we're like, hey, we need to send the surveys. Well, why do we need to send the surveys? Well, we do it so you can't game it. And if you can't game it, neither can your competition. So now we've created a fair system that the property owner will have confidence in. So another question we get, well, wait a second, who's your customer? I hate that question, to be honest with you, because I don't think I think it's a short-sighted question. Who's our customer? Well, we're a marketplace. Marketplace is two-sided. Our property managers, that's how we make money. They're our customer, but we're serving the property owner. We're creating a better experience for the property owner so that we give the property manager the thing they want. And the property owners tell us that they want trustworthy property managers that can prove they're the best. And that's what we facilitate. And so on the software vendor side of things, like we talk a lot about what's the best technology, like, we've got our VPI rating system. Well, that came from listening as well. Well, we saw the survey data from the property owners rating the property manager. And we had our property managers asking us, hey, what's the best technology stack that like the best property management companies are using? And we're like, well, hold on a second. We kind of know what tech stack they use. Let's see what tech stack drives the best outcome for customers. And then that'll be our recommendation. And so we started to do that. And we realized, whoa, some of these technology partners are producing way better results in terms of NPS, overall satisfaction, maintenance speed, leasing speed, reporting. Like it was tangible. And so then there was opportunity, we rolled it out, and here we are. So everything we've done has been driven by this just like passion and energy around proving it, I think, which I don't know why that, it shouldn't be a liquid death, fresh take, but like, I guess maybe it is.
But it kind of is, right? Like to me, when you say Carfax of property management, I think, oh, nobody's ever put a cool brand on water. When you tell me this popularity contest is ruining it for everybody, I'm like, oh, people don't drink water at a bar because they feel douchey. Right? Like it's like a real pain, right? Like,
well, I bet Liquid Death pissed off some incumbent water companies. Like Dasani probably fucking hates. They probably hate it,
Yeah.
And I think we get that a little bit too, though, Pablo. Like, if you're a property manager who's been gaming the system with Google reviews, you don't like us because we don't benefit you. You're already at 4.8 with 2,000 reviews, dominating in your market in the first page on traditional Google SEO. That's all shifting with like AI search and how that's playing out. But like, still right now today, how do we benefit you? We don't, unless you're also the company that's gaining reviews and providing a really great quality service, which typically isn't the case. And so that's going to create some people that are unhappy. But you know what that should do? For the property managers that are like grinding, not cutting corners, doing the right things, focusing on operations, thinking about how they can transition to AI, provide better client experiences. Like, if they're focused on the right things, like, we are the solution. Like, we are something that can be an unfair advantage and can be such a huge value to, what you're trying to build. So I'm not pitching us right now. I'm more so just like, it's that energy I think I had when we were at BR.
Yeah, it's what you believe. It's the thing that I want to uncover, because I think it's very real. Because when you say that, I feel the same way. Like, until your report came out on these like various categories, it was really hard for us to say, no, man, like the incumbent, they're awesome and they've been doing a great job for a really, really long time. We're doing something completely different over here, right? Like, they're building cars, we're building drivers. It's very, very different. And so you've done for us what you're doing for property managers as well, right? So like, what I would love to get into is what you're learning in all of this, right? Like, I think I'd love to get it from the property manager's point of view to the market, like in the data that you are putting forth and allowing people to compete based on the results that they drive to each other for property managers, and the data that you have access to. Like, what are the insights, right? Like, when I hear you speaking, I hear, man, as a real estate investor, I would prefer for my property manager to invest 5 times the effort that they invest in Google reviews for figuring out how to sign 2 and 3 year leases instead, to maximize my occupancy. Right?
I mean, going back to that question, I'll frame my answer as almost like an answer to my question about the 2,000 door company starting from scratch thing.
Yeah.
I'll use a little data here for you. These are some like real insights, like all anonymized, aggregated, but real insights. There's a lot that I want to talk about. We'll hone in on this one. So we ask a question, and the question is, we ask a lot of questions with the survey, but we ask the owners a simple question. And we try to frame it in a really like smart survey way, which is, you don't want to create bias in the question. So what we ask is, when you call your property manager, do they answer? A, or B, do you get voicemail? There's no C, other, it's either you expect them when you call, do they answer, or do you get voicemail? We think that is potentially the most important question that you can ask a client, because it's so relational to so many parts of your operations, your tech stack. Like, it's such an important question we're finding in the data. And so I'll share a little bit of detail on it. So there's a 69-point gap. So about 55% of clients that have been surveyed expect to get voicemail. Okay. So the cohort that expects to get voicemail, what do you think their NPS is? Net promoter score, -100 to +100, like really solid is 30 to 40, best in class is like 50, 60, 70 is like way up there.
I would say that the ones that aren't getting are detractors for sure. So like a very low, maybe in the teens kind of thing.
So they started out early in the data was about a -6. It's right now sitting at +2. Okay. So that means there's as many detractors, people that are like, I'm about to leave, as there are promoters who are like, this company's awesome. So that's bad. Like, if I was running at that, I'd be like, shoot, like the floor is falling out of my business right now, is really how you should feel. Right. So with the ones that answered, the 45% that say, hey, no, actually I expect to get an answer, what do you think the NPS is?
60.
71.
That's great.
71.
Like I said in the intro, this Google review game is such an injustice, and we all know that the most vulnerable you are to a bad Google review is during a maintenance situation. Why? We all know it, right? It's because it's a moment where a resident is nervous that, their safety, their comfort is challenged. An owner is nervous that their wallet, their investment is not being taken care of, and it puts you in a really, really awkward spot. And what we've learned from that is this idea that if you don't pick up the phone when they call, they don't believe in you. And At the core of all of this is exactly what Vendoroo solves. The ability for an AI to take every single call for you when it comes up, to make everybody feel heard, to have every situation be properly triaged, properly troubleshot, every work order created with thorough analysis, and all the communications and all the details handled, so that if there really is a moment that could cause a Google review, you are there for it. And the AI nowadays, with our resident sentiment score, is bringing you the people that seem like they're upset before they report it, before they do a Google review. It lets you work on embers instead of having to fight fires. If you haven't seen what that means, if you haven't seen how Vendoroo is right now giving you live resident analysis while it's being able to handle all these conversations for you so that you're there for the big ones, you need to check it out. Go to vendoroo.ai as soon as you can.
So think about the question though. So if your client is calling you, so they're picking their phone up, because it's not email. The question isn't about email. It isn't about text message. It's literally about calling. So that means they're picking their phone up. They've got jobs. Like, people forget that. I think property managers sometimes forget that they're like their clients. Dylan Scroggins, who does like co-hosts with our podcast, he always says people that don't, people that work as clients of property managers are two things. They're rich and they're busy. They're rich because they have that house. They don't live in it, right? And so if that's the case, like, that means they're going out of their way to call their property managers, probably about an issue, maintenance, leasing, vacancy, turnover. So they probably already have something. Yeah, it's something already bugging them or on their mind, right? And so you call, and then you get it. I'll stop using the F word here. You get a voicemail.
Yeah.
That person is like, the data says they go nuclear. Like the next opportunity they can, again, they're busy. The only reason they're not firing you on the spot is because it's more work to go find another property manager.
Yeah.
Right. And so you've got that, and we've got a lot of grace as property managers there. Like, you can really turn a detractor around by just going, hey, we screwed up. I'm sorry. We're going to start answering the phone and we're going to solve this problem. Right. And so when we look at the data, like, to land the plane here, like, it goes deeper. So if you look at the cohort, that's the +2 MPS, the ones that expect to get the voicemail, the property managers who are fully adopting our platform are syncing their property management software, their leasing software, their maintenance software. Like, we're seeing the survey data. So we can layer this data over top and sort of have these insights. Well, you can go look at what else maybe is making them upset. It's work orders taking too long. It's the lack of renewals. It's the vacancy. Like, all those other things are driving at that. And so what we really come back to in the data is that renewals is the magic opportunity. If you get renewals at a high rate, that means that you're avoiding the thing that causes churn. If you're avoiding the thing that's causing churn, you're avoiding the client calling you about the issue. You're avoiding the thing that's going to cause them to leave. So if you optimize for great tenant experiences before a lease renewal, get the renewal, communicate to the owner with a phone call. Hey, not a text, not an email, not an automated message. You call them and say, hey, Pablo. Yeah, so we went ahead and got your lease renewed, $2,200. Market rent was $2,150. Great tenant. Told us they're gonna stay for a long time. This place is gonna be well taken care of, high cash for the next few years. It's gonna be amazing. Just want to let you know we're on top of it. So thankful you're our client. Hang up. You just increase your lifetime value of that customer probably 24 months, 36 months, right?
Yeah, I was going to say 3 to 4 years. Easy.
Right. And so that all this goes into, like, there's so many things in play there, but it's simple. It's like lease renewals. Crazy idea. How about you create like great tenant experiences? How do you do that? Like, what pisses tenants off? You guys know.
Yeah. Poor maintenance.
Yeah.
Yes.
So maybe your maintenance software is important, Pablo. Who knew?
Who knew? Who knew? You know what I love about it, man? Do you listen to the My First Million podcast?
Oh yeah. Love.
Sean Purry talks about these like one chart businesses, right? Or like one stat businesses, right? Like this idea of like this explosion of like when the Viagra formula became open, there was going to be like this giant like uptake in this. So you're tapping into that or whatever, right? Yeah. Like businesses that you can explain in one stat. And what you're telling me right now, for me, I'm hearing one stat business for property management, right? Like if I'm trying to organize my operation, you just gave me this like extreme clarity of a North Star that I can work towards, right? My North Star is, and I want you to go into what the numbers are for renewals, because you just gave me a great number with pick up the phone, right? But like I could easily say, hey, my head of operations, their North Star is how often are we able to pick up the phone on the first like 4 rings for people, because all of our stuff is disorganized, right? Like that's my integrator's goal. My leasing department, the North Star is what are renewals, right? Like what, if I can find a true North Star, right? And a vision of like what I'm trying to build that's based on a singular point, I have found that that creates speed for businesses, right? It creates speed in decision making. It creates speed in taking action, because you're letting everything else float away. If you can ask yourself, oh, I just got back from a conference and I found all these really cool technologies. You're like, whoa, whoa, whoa. Which one of these are going to lead to better renewals? Right? Like
Yeah. Well,
so much easier to do.
well, here's something to think about that's crazy, right?
Yeah.
So you talked about like the for lack of better terms, like the cool kid club, kind of the influencer economy of our industry. It's not just our industry, it's so many industries, but like
Sure.
if you think about it, the thing that the data suggests is that renewal rate is the North Star, like we're talking about. Like if you optimize for renewal rate, it means you're providing great tenant experiences. It means your renewal rate's high, your churn should be low, you should have happy customers,
It means
your
your
long-term value.
investors have occupancy and
They're going to
consistent
refer
cash
you. It
flow.
probably also
Yeah.
means you get good
Yeah.
Google reviews. So now it's like
Yeah.
an
Yeah.
outcome, not something you prioritize. So if that's the case, okay, how many software companies have a renewal solution?
I
Not
don't
a
know any.
single one.
Yeah.
Not a single one. Okay, so we're gonna wait for like my newsletter, your newsletter, some other industry people newsletter to like, what are they saying on podcasts? Like, what's the technology we should buy, guys? Well, the thing that matters the most in your business, there isn't a technology for it. But wait, there is. It's called Claude. And what did Claude just release like a week ago? You can, in Cowork on desktop, you can click the little plus button, right? I mean, I've got Claude up on my screen. Our whole business is connected to Claude.
Of course.
You click skills, record skill. So record skill, what does that do? It allows you to record your screen and go into any Chrome browser, anything you're logged into, and do a task. It could be anything. And then it turns it into a skill baked into Claude. So in theory, everyone that got this far in the podcast, buy Claude. If you haven't already, hit record skill, log into Appfolio or RentBind, whatever you're using, and then go run your renewal process, whatever it is. Like the whole thing is it not only records your screen, it records your commentary. So you can talk about the nuanced decision making in that process. It's going to record it. And then the next time you need to run your renewal process, which many of you pay, $2,500 a month or something to a remote team member, that's like all they do for your business. And then when you hit a certain door count, you have to like add another one. You now just hit /command renewal skill, enter. Wait 3 minutes, you just ran your whole renewal process for your entire business, right? So there's your software company update. It's free. I mean, you got to pay Claude, but like, I'm not trying to make money here, right? It's just like, you got to be able to think about your business and what matters the most. And like, what are the things you can do to optimize for what actually matters?
100%. I love that. I love this idea of like, who is the software provider out there that's solving for the biggest pain point. I think there was, when I came in here, I think one of the things that really made the book that I released work is that the second chapter of the book talked about a found insight by me, like an earned insight by me, which was this idea that while the whole industry was talking about getting really loud about NOI and how important NOI is and how like NOI is the thing that's going to save you from the popularity contest, I was like, dude, nobody is beating one property manager is not selling an investor to switch their property manager based on like this like NOI delta that they can give them. That just doesn't exist, right? Like, what are you gonna tell me? You can make me an extra $50 a month? Maybe that's believable, right? Like property manager to property manager. For me, my lived experience was the reason why people churn from property managers or from asset classes was something that I coined as a KTA, the kitchen table argument. And it's this idea that like all these little moments that happen that make you lose trust in your property manager, that my wife and I fight over for the last like 9 months, like once a week when something happens or whatever comes up, that's what makes you churn from a property manager. That's what makes you be like, fuck it, I'm going to liquidate my portfolio and put it in the S&P 500 and let it ride, right? Like it's that piece of it. And optimizing for, can you be there to like not just treat everybody standardly across every experience, but treat standard experiences as like get it done and then be super present for these like high intensity moments. That was like the main argument I was making, right? What you're saying is very similar to that, right? Like it's not like it's, can you pick up the phone, right? Like if you pick up the phone, your clients are gonna, you're gonna be showing your clients that you're supporting them. And can you drive renewals as a way to do this instead of focusing on all this noise and all the different opinions of like what really, really matters based on whatever somebody has a tool for kind of thing.
Well, I'll even double down on it because yeah, you're spot on. But like doubling down on it is, yeah, NOI matters. Of course, it matters. Like running a profitable business matters in any industry, and ours historically has been pretty tight margins, right? So what I'm saying is that by operating with this efficiency mindset, leveraging AI, being accountable for like, hey, as a business owner, you need to learn AI. At least I'm also a big like who, not how. Like I love that book. You don't have to be an expert in AI, like, but you need to know it's important and to find someone who can help you execute it, right? It's one or the other. Either you're the how, like you can go do it yourself and implement it, or you need to find someone who can, right? Yeah. And so if you do that, we are in the first period in human history in property management. It's so dramatic. In propertymanagement.com, in property management history, where it scales, which means the bigger you get, the bigger your margin should be. So you want to talk about NOI, scale your business, provide great customer experiences. I always say like magical experiences. I think people kind of roll their eyes at me when I say that, but it's like,
I agree with it.
I forget that book, something about unreasonable hospitality.
Unreasonable hospitality. I was about to say, yeah, the dream weaver.
We are a business, an industry where like creating unreasonable hospitality is so easy because there's so many at bats and the bar is so low. Call a tenant like the week after they moved in and paid their rent and security deposit and all that, and just call them up for 5 minutes, 3 minutes, and just say, hey, just wanted to let you know, we're really excited to provide a home for you. We went ahead and dropped in your mailbox a $10 Starbucks gift card, a local coffee shop, whatever. Just want to say thank you. And that if you ever need anything, blah, 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 here's the process, right? Do that and go see what happens to your renewal rate. Do that and go see what happens to your growth rate. Do that and go see what happens to your NOI. Right. Yeah. But like, I think just, that takes somebody who's committed to what actually matters and not committed to all the noise and the stress and anxiety of like what AI tools. It's just like kind of get to the basics. Right. So anyway, off my soapbox.
Yeah, I love it, man. Matt, you mentioned this idea that renewal rate is the move. Like what's the data behind, like, what are the numbers that you're seeing? Like, is that an NPS thing? Is that to justify why you think renewal is the number one thing to optimize for?
Well, so I think renewals, so number one, like our surveys are pretty novel, and that's crazy to me. So some pushback I've had to, the people that are uncomfortable with us having access to kind of like control this important process within your business, surveying your clients. The pushback oftentimes is like, what if they say something bad? Okay, well, we're not going to surface that, right? But like knowing the current scorecard of what your current clients are telling you is kind of the baseline, because that tells you sort of like, do you have how big is the problem, or is there a problem? Or, it's sort of the foundation for kind of the direction you should go. So, and let's say, renewal is that important, right? Well, number one, the ability to buy a home right now, first-time home buyer, that price is soaring, right? Mm-hmm. So that's a perfect environment for driving renewal rate, because they have to live somewhere. They're going to rent. They're not getting, a lot of times you leave your first-time home buyer or your renter leaves to be a first-time home buyer. That's not happening as much, right? Yeah. So they want to stay. Everything is in the like line to be perfect for the property manager. And so really you should be targeting 75 to 80% on renewal rate. And a lot of people say, hey, best in class is like 2/3, like, you want to be 67% or so. I say the data doesn't say that's true. The data says it's closer to 80%. And if you're going to be closer to 80%, you can do a couple really key things there, right? So most people run the renewal process 90 days out, or sometimes 120 out. So 90 days out, that's when you contact them and say, hey, do you want to renew? Okay. Well, crazy concept. What if 60 days out from that date, we run the magical tenant experience play? So like game it. Like you don't even have to like just be a great person and just like do it just because it's a good thing to do. Run it as an actual system in your business to where you're intentionally trying to create magical experiences for your tenants 60 days before renewal, and then see what that does to renewal rate. And so if you see renewal rate happen, now the deeper level thing that you can do once the renewal happens, because they'll happen if you intentionally run a process around it. So now they're renewing closer to an 80% rate. Call the owner and communicate that you created the magical experience, you got the renewal, and you just saved them a bunch of money. Tell that to them in a data-driven but relational way. So say, hey, on average, if this would have went vacant, you would have expected $3,872 in turn costs and vacancy. Even with us running a great business, great systems. We saved you $3,800 and we're committed to you as a client. Thank you for your, trusting us, blah, 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 hang up the phone. And like you run that every single time, every single month, you have this opportunity to run this dual combo because that's now creating a tenant experience that's amazing. And it's creating a client experience that's amazing all around one central process, right? So if you do that one thing, you're probably going to be successful. And I think that's probably how you get to the 2,000 doors.
Yeah, that makes sense. So if what I'm hearing from you is you figured out that renewals is the most important thing because that is what all these surveys for all these owners have told you that makes them the happiest when it comes to doing business with property managers?
1,000%.
What else? Give me more stuff. All right. So we've uncovered two monsters, right? Like picking up the phone and renewals. Give me just another potpourri of data insights that you have that you've been like yelling at people, but now you're on the Property Management Framebreakers podcast and finally people are going to listen to you.
I don't think I have anything as great as that, but yeah. I would say something that's interesting is we asked a question about maintenance cost value.
Okay.
So it's a 1 out of 10 and it's like, hey, how would you rate the maintenance costs? I think I forget the exact wording, but it's about, we call it maintenance cost value. So it's basically saying like, are you getting a good value with the maintenance that comes through? That's the lowest rated question across the board. And it, you could be somebody that's a complete promoter, super happy within the rest of the survey, but that they're still going to rate that one poorly. So if you're a business that's optimizing for maintenance costs, you're probably optimizing for the wrong thing, right? If you're optimizing for maintenance costs, you think that price is why they don't like you. Well, that's why they're churning. Well, tie it back to everything else I just talked about. It's probably somewhere down the path that created the upset. It's when you get the big bill that's not a big bill. It's just a normal bill. Hey, the water heater, one more layer to it, water heaters. Yeah. We saw that the average property manager, I mean, and I know like Property Mill, Vendoroo, like a lot of these companies, you guys have a lot of data on maintenance. So I have a little data on maintenance, I guess. Please. But water heaters I see are about a 12. I think the median is like 1247 or something, which is really low to me for water heater. Because if you Google right now, ChatGPT or whatever, hey, my house, in Meridian Hills, Indiana, I need a water heater. You're probably going to be 1,800 to 2,200 price point. And so as property managers, we're actually getting really great prices generally for our customers.
Correct.
They think the prices are really terrible. Yeah. They will always think the prices are terrible. And it's usually because you're doing something else along the way that's pissing them off. And then they just generally have this perception that your maintenance costs are too high. Because honestly, if you get anything, any bill is too high because they don't want to see any of it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, when they think, here's what we've learned, right? Like you're talking about how like we all have some data, right? Like we've realized that when the owners tell you that they want 3 bids, it's not that they have 3 bids, is that they don't trust your operation, right? The owner 100%. Wants to know what you did to figure out that this was the actual problem. Like, how'd you diagnose it? They want to know, am I getting fair pricing? And they want to know, is this house a money pit, right? So, what we have in beta right now that's about to roll out to everybody is something called the decision, where for every maintenance decision, the owner receives, this is exactly how we diagnosed it. This is what other people are paying in the area for this type of service, like the range of pricing, so that you know exactly where you fall in that range of pricing. And this is the historical performance of the house. So no, we're not hitting you up for $1,500 every 2 months here, right? Like this house is not a money pit. And this is how many times this service has been requested in this area, right?
That's amazing. Yeah, taking that data-driven approach. That question, I mean, that's a churn snowball from hell because when you ask that question and the owner who you're trying to keep from churning is saying, I want 3 bids. And you say, of course, because cost is really important. We're going to get 3 bids. Well, what are you doing? Well, you're actually de-optimizing for renewal rate. Best way to piss off your tenant is to go get 3 fucking bids every time. Hey, sorry. Yeah, I know that guy was in the house for 40 minutes. We got another guy coming tomorrow. And then another guy that's going to come the next day. Then he's going to come and fix it next week, but he's going to have to come back and also again, fix it. Cause we picked the lowest option who is like super inefficient. And so we're just going to piss the tenant off and then the tenant's going to not renew. And then we're going to have like 3 months of vacant. And so if you aren't on top of your systems and your data and like understanding these dynamics, it really all comes down to if you've got AI and all these cool new tools that are making your operations more efficient, doing a lot of this stuff for you, it pretty much becomes communication.
100%.
If you can communicate to your clients, specifically your tenants too, and like do it from a position of confidence, strength, like data driven, you're going to be happier. Your team members, think about the snowball effect here. Like if your team can now act from that position, you're going to retain good employees. Like, you got me on my soapbox today, man. Like,
no, I love it, man.
You got the juices flowing.
You've said a couple things from data that David Normand, who I know that you've met recently, has been preaching from like the top of the mountains, right? Like one of the things he says is like maintenance is easy. Like managing maintenance is easy. Managing expectations and emotions is really, really hard, right?
That's
like
right. That's right.
That's what it boils down to. And then the other thing that he talks about, right? Because David, he built a 600 door property management company just himself, kind of thing, right? Until he burned out. Then he went and managed maintenance for REOs during like for Fannie and Freddie during the Great Recession, like hundreds of thousands of doors. And at that point,
complete psychopath, because he can successfully do that.
Yeah.
In a complimentary way, David.
Yeah. And what he realized was that if it's not about price, then really like the best plumber that you can bring out is Roto-Rooter. They answer immediately, they show up, they fix it every single freaking time, right? And when he was managing these bank-owned portfolios, he could do it that way, and it was the best performing properties, but they're the priciest, right? So it's like, how do we get to the point where we incentivize the speed and the ease of use and all this stuff? Because that's really, if you're uncovering this data on your side, saying that these 3 bids is really hurting the relationship, and it's not that managers don't trust you, it's not that property owners don't trust you, is that if you don't pick up the phone, they don't trust you, and if you're not getting renewals, they don't trust you, right? So now you can start building this data-backed argument for, we called Roto-Rooter because we want to keep them there for 4 years, right?
So, 100%.
So it's like, and
it becomes like how many property managers are listening to this right now, and just like ask yourself, like, what's my client, or like, what's my tenant satisfaction or tenant sentiment, or like whatever the metric is.
Yeah.
Like
tenant sentiment.
All right. 1 in 10, maybe 2 in 10 right now are like, oh, I know that number. If you don't know that number, I'd probably consider start optimizing for that number. And if, you want to know the answer, like go ask the question. And also, on the owner satisfaction side, like you can survey your clients too. Now, is it best practice in that, just generally in business terms to use a third party to do your surveys because of survey bias? Yes. Does anyone else offer that service? A little selling here. No, but you can still take a step towards like not asking is really bad. Okay. Asking is a big improvement. And then maybe trying to do it in a way where we've got this other kind of benchmark industry data is even better, but it's like, take action, care about it first, or else what are we talking about?
Outsource until you can bring it in-house when it's that important. And I'm going to answer something. You said how many property managers are listening to this right now and they don't know their resident sentiment score. I would say that whoever's listening to us right now, our friend is one at a time. It's only one person. And chances are they're probably a Vendoroo client and they know their resident sentiment score.
They do know it. I've seen that. I saw when David showed me that in we did the product deep dive or whatever, the webinar. Yeah. I was like that number. Yeah. Exactly. That's very,
all right. So we've been talking a lot about optimizing the business, the metrics that you're learning by having access to this data, making these cases that are not emotional, that are not popularity based, whatever. I want to tap into the other side of your business right now, which is you are being this kind of like consultant for service providers, and you're releasing these category reports, the maintenance software category report, the AI agent category report. That was a big, it was a huge thing for us to see that the thing that we have always cared about, which is like our core value is own the outcome, right? Like our core value, how we've always differentiated. I think now, in the world of agents, it's harder and harder for people to see the difference. But this idea of like organizing around owning the outcome for us became very, very real when you surface this idea that our clients have the highest NPS scores as operators, right? Like not that they give us the highest NPS score, that their clients are the happiest. That's huge. And that there's just no way anybody could have given us that, right? Like,
Well, and think about it too. So what we all did, like, that's what the data said. The data said that Vendoroo's clients are the happiest. Okay. So that's super interesting, right? So if you think about that, your software, because you guys, took the liberty to like get on a stage and let me like pick it apart in public webinar, like you've got the tenant sentiment or whatever that, is it tenant sentiment?
Yeah.
It's tracked, right? Okay. So your software tracks that. And we just said that drives renewal rate, which is like the churn prevention, which creates happy clients. It's like, the data stars are sort of aligning there. Like, and that's what we as property managers should really, really consider is we need to choose tools that are optimizing for the things that matter the most. And I think we should all start to agree on what things matter the most. And if you hear other people talking about things that don't, that aren't those things, it's just noise, right? And our industry has a lot of noise, and we should start to think like, hey, let's optimize for what matters the most. Let's cut the noise out, and let's just make, we always say elevate the industry. It's our Kool-Aid a little bit. It's kind of like your own outcome. Like we want to elevate the industry. And so why we rate software providers and publicly put it up on our website, it's not because we're, going out of our way to make a bunch of money. It's actually pretty time intensive to like do this. It's really because we're trying to put pressure in a really positive way, and also just create information for the software companies in our industry so that they can optimize for the things that we care about, right? And so if the property managers are saying, hey, I care about this tool works, this tool doesn't, I like this on this tool, I don't like this on that tool, like that feedback gets back to the software leaders and like providers. Well, now they have like a really clear path to like go improve those things. And then we kind of continue that feedback loop. So a little bit of Kool-Aid, but like we feel like that's just a way for us to, do the whole elevate the industry kind of positioning.
Yeah, I love it. Listen, I wanted to get in that whole like NPS jab thing because that was huge for us. But like what I really want to get from you is, I mean, you just said you took 40 calls, right? Like you took 40 calls in like 2 weeks. What are people getting wrong when they're like shopping for software? Like what are the best practices coming away from these calls of all this advice you've given to people of like how to think through AI implementation?
Yeah, I think the biggest takeaway that I didn't really think it would be a takeaway going into it, but it was very, very clear, like top one or two things was like people think about their software decisions sort of in a silo. So they're like, hey, I need to go choose a leasing software, or what's the best workflow software? And they don't think about like their whole sort of like tech stack suite as like, it's almost, I think about it almost like you're trying to create like a machine, and a machine has parts, and for a machine to run really smoothly, like all the parts have to like fit together, right? Like they have to be cohesive. And I think that a lot of people are trying to like make these like one-off decisions. And then sometimes there's like loyalty in a certain provider that maybe is like the part within the system that might be causing everything else to break. But like that loyalty, that relationship, that human piece kind of like gets you in the way of maybe the decision. And so my biggest takeaway was like, it's kind of a reset. So if you're a property manager, you need to hit the reset button, act like you have 0 doors today and you're starting over. What would you choose? Okay. And then when you write that down, you discover, okay, I choose this, and this, and here's how we would execute, and here's how some KPIs change. Go do that, even though it's going to be painful. Like change is painful, but like go do it, because if you don't, your competition is, and 2 years from now, you're going to fucking wish you did.
I hate the AI FOMO thing because I know it's too overdone, but it's so true, right? Like we have clients. I have clients talk me through this idea of like, man, I'm like finishing up a conversation with a client. Looks like it's going well. And they're like, oh, and we use AI to save you money. And they're like, what are you talking about? And they'll call the receptionist, right? Like they'll call their AI receptionist, like role play a scenario where a sink is leaking, and role play a client that's like making it sound like an emergency, but it's not really an emergency. And then show them how it triages, troubleshoots, and start texting with them to get it right. And they're like, imagine that happening at 11 o'clock at night. And the person that's answering that call, all they're going to do is send an emergency plumber that's going to cost you $500. You didn't need to do that, right? Like we get to do this 24/7. They're like, dude, every time I do that pitch, it works, right?
Yeah, 100%.
I think the moment someone's doing that in your market, right? Like you either got it or you don't, right?
Well, I mean,
and that's just us, right? Like
yeah,
there's all these other
that's a great example of what you guys are doing. And I think like if we're successful in what we're doing, we're also pushing at that same lever, which is we're going to surface who's the best based on the facts. And the best is probably going to be the company using the software like Vendoroo, where they answer all the time, they triage, they move, like it's super consistent, like across, whether you have 100 properties or 2,000 properties. Like if they're doing that and you're not, it's just a matter of time before you lose that client. Where's that client going to go? Are they going to sell the house? Maybe. Who's going to buy it? Who's that person going to use? Someone else, right? And so over time, you're just going to lose market share. And I've heard of some property managers who are like already taking the pill, and they're like, they've implemented a lot of this stuff. They got their team on Claude Teams. They're like, each employee is sort of 2 to 3 times more efficient. They're thinking about like the unreasonable hospitality kind of mindset, the like AI orchestrator mindset, like all the rules are changing. They've got some of the best tech stack tools. And they're like, you know what? I don't see why like our prices are 10% per month. They could easily be 5% because they're looking at it like, hold on, what's the moat now? The moat might be sales and marketing. Because if really great automated like AI driven operations becomes a commoditized sort of like function of a property management business in like 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, where do you stand out? Probably in your ability to communicate, which drives your sales and marketing. So your ability to stand out, communicate, attract new clients becomes the way that you actually succeed. And if you've got some clients who can drop their price to 5% just because they're so efficient, not that they will, maybe some won't, maybe it'll be like this like slow
or pay their people twice as much, and all of a sudden you are McDonald's competing against In-N-Out.
Screwed. You're screwed.
Yeah, right. Like there's many ways to divert that resource, right? Like it can be a price break, it can be higher paid talent, it can be like all this stuff that you can do.
I think my most clicked like newsletter in the last like 3 or 4 months was when I basically said that if you don't believe in the stuff that you and I are like harping on right now, just sell your company, give up. It's not the worst thing, because if you actually just try to like squeeze it for every penny along the way, you're going to end up with like, you're going to be super stressed out. You're going to be super anxious about all this AI stuff. And then you're going to be like, this business is like worth a shell of what it was before. Right. So it's like, I don't think that is the crazy, like we are an industry that's completely fragmented. It's like a one of a kind kind of industry where there isn't a massive like 5% market share, 10% market share player even. Yeah. Right. So it's not crazy to be like, all right, this isn't for me, like sell. Like that isn't something that you should feel bad about. But like if that is that you aren't the type of person that wants to quit and give in and be like, this isn't for me, like, okay, hunker down and start making some tough decisions. And I think you'll see some excitement and passion that like you and I have right now start to maybe come back into your business.
Yeah. The thing that I've been arguing is if you're not in it for this, then stop worrying about doors managed and start worrying about doors owned. Just go out there and acquire a 50-door portfolio and
be easier. Yeah. I've got a client that started doing that like 15 years ago, and he owns like 1,400 properties up in like Detroit, Toledo area. That's like he manages like another 1,400, but like he doesn't have to.
Yeah.
But he manages those like he manages his, and he's got like one of the highest NPSs in our system right now. Like who knew, right?
I'm such a fan. I'm such a fan of that. I'm such a fan of the property management company that is also really into building their own real estate portfolio, because it creates this flywheel effect of you have economies of scale for yourself and your portfolio, you have credibility for your investors, you have all this like aligned incentive of like treating yourself as a client is always going to lead to good decisions. And on top of that, I'm a big believer that your real estate portfolio may or may not be worth more than your property management company when you go to exit it. Or at least it's going to spit off more cash flow than whatever that number you're going to get from your property management company in 20 years or whatever, right? Like to
especially if you drive strong renewals for your properties.
especially if you drive strong renewals. Dude, this has been awesome, man. Anything else? Is there anything that I haven't hit on that you wanted to hit on or you wanted to jam on right now as we're wrapping up here?
We'll have to do, we'll get some more insights, and we'll do session 2 in a few months. But obviously we care about data. We care about, insights, efficiency, like all these things. It's to like elevate the industry. We want to be able to create better experiences for clients, for tenants, make it easier to run these property management businesses, create a little bit more community around our industry. So I appreciate you having me on, man. It's always fun chatting with you.
Man, I'll end it kind of how I started it, right? Like multiple people said that we should meet. And to me, the first thing was this kind of like energy that you have around your ideas and this passion and this belief. But to me, the thing that I really appreciate is I didn't hear you say it today, but I've heard you say it before. Your customer is the industry, right? Like I'm a big believer, not just in somebody that's going all in on their thesis, but in founders that are missionaries. And there's a big difference between missionaries and mercenaries in the outcomes that they create, the experiences they create. I see you as a guy that's really on a mission to do something great in a moment in time that's gone, like you said, you've pushed all your chips in on this like really, really core belief for the right reasons, man. And that's the type of friend I like to have, right? Like in this world of entrepreneurship, like this is it. Like you are the type of guy I want to surround myself with, man. So I'm pumped that
you too,
been able to build this relationship. And
I appreciate you saying that. And man, I just live it, I breathe it. I don't know how I ended up in a world where like I'm obsessed with property management, but here I am. And it's all I think about, all I do, and I'll be around a while. So hopefully we'll see how this whole AI thing actually plays out. But appreciate it, Pablo. It's been fun.